There's been many issues that have been covered. Of course, security of students and the safety of students on campus. I also hope that we have more communication between the police force and the students in the university. I think that a lot of these concerns can easily be taken care of.
Not long after the Leyland brothers started going bush with a camera in the 60s, Mike got the job as NBN's first news cameraman, and younger brother Mal got his start as a photographer at the Newcastle Sun. Although they weren't as close in recent years, Mal told us today his brother's death came as a shock.
After all the things we've done together, it doesn't seem real to me just yet.
After cutting their teeth shooting home movies at the entrance, they took a Land Rover to Uluru as 17 and 20-year-olds. The Leylands took us down the Darling, on wheels across the wilderness and in an open boat from Darwin to Sydney, stopping in at their home port of Newcastle. Following Mike's passing from complications of Parkinson's disease, Mal says the family has fielded phone calls from across Australia.
These are people that we've encountered sometimes in our travels and had contact with, are just ringing up to say how they wanted to express their views about how much we meant to them. And it's only when this happens that you actually realise the impact of it all.
Paul Lobb, NBN News.
The storyboard behind this development is like a feature-length drama, a project now 10 years old. But today, developer Keith Johnson cleared the biggest hurdle so far, with the State Planning Department approving the concept for his $200 million tourism, residential and marina development at Trinity Point.
We're involved in the Woolworths Centre in Morisset, involved in the Cooranbong land release, and this just caps it off as a lifestyle destination for Lake Macquarie.
Lake Mayor Greg Piper doesn't doubt that, but does question the need for 188 berths in Bardens Bay, already scaled down from 308.
I think that there is some room there, maybe not to change the quantum, but change the layout of the marina so as to reduce the impact.
The 3.6 hectare site in Lake Macquarie's southwest corner could accommodate as many as 200 permanent residents, the largest foreshore project of its kind in the city.
Through all the studies that we've had to produce for this development, we've tried to demonstrate that this development will be environmentally sensitive.
The decision-making process goes to the heart of what's wrong with planning in New South Wales. It's taken the local people out of the equation.
Those who object to this project argue it's not in keeping with Morisset Park's character, but they're now facing a fight on two fronts if they want to stop it. Council is consent authority for any land-based work, while DAs involving the water will be sent to the state government for approval.
We would hope that by this time next year we could be turning the first sods.
Adam McKilrick, NBN News.
So lots of people are doing Sudoku and crossword puzzles. Learning a new language has been one of those things that's been promoted as one of the most brain healthy things that you can do.
There was a time when Callum Orchard would have told us in no uncertain terms an interview was out of the question. You should hear what he has to say now.
The biggest change I'd have to say is the sort of confidence levels I've got, and knowing that I've got a friend and someone to talk to.
That someone is Pete Dagger, a mentor with the Rush program, and this 16-year-old is among the star students.
Rush is about partnering with young people that are referred to us from local high schools that got challenging circumstances which make life as a teenager sometimes difficult.
And Callum's story is a sad one. His mother died 2 years ago, while his grandmother and carer recently passed away as well, all of which makes this young man's turnaround more remarkable.
He's grown a lot. He's got, as I said before, he has a direction where he wants to go, he knows what he wants, and he's pretty determined to get what he wants.
A scholarship with the Hunter Youth Mentor Collaborative gave Callum and his younger sister the means to stay at school, but they actually want to be there, and haven't teachers noticed a massive change for the better?
I feel a bit up myself, but I feel pretty good about it. It makes me feel a bit better about myself, and just not walking away knowing that someone's actually noticing a difference.
And all because he has someone to talk to. Adam McKilrick, NBN News.
By his own admission, it's been a baptism of fire for rookie coach Rick Stone, who conceded Saturday night's loss still burns, especially after gambling on injured stars Isaac De Gois and Zeb Taya.
Yeah, it's hurt, there's no doubt about it. I feel I let the boys down a little bit. Well, I'm not going to dwell on it too much. It's a decision that's made. It was a big one and it did hurt us.
And the players themselves. De Gois is set to have surgery by the end of the week to repair his knee, which could yet mean between 6 to 9 months in recovery. For Taya, shoulder surgery will rob him of a New Zealand jersey in the imminent Quad Series.
He's put club before country at this point in time, and he's actually getting married on the 16th of October, so he's got a lot going on in his life.
Cooper Werner and Jared Mullen are also facing the surgeon's knife in the off-season. At the Jets, a former Newcastle football coach made a guest appearance at training today. Now in charge of State Premier League side Marconi, Lee Sterry brought up 3 players to trial, including 2 originally from the Ivory Coast. They each have a week to convince the club's current coach of a longer stay.
I've seen most of the guys play previously. I just wanted to see how they compare with what we've got here.
Player availability may force Branko Kalina's hand after losing 3 young Socceroos to a World Cup campaign, and now injuries have struck again.
Both of them have got a day off, and we've got to wait and see until later on in the week.
Not what he wanted before playing his old club, Sydney FC. The finishing touches are being applied before the NJC's 2-day Spring Carnival, which culminates with the Gold Cup. It's Cameron Day tomorrow, and the top weight in that, Queensland star Black Piranha, recently travelled to Newcastle just to gallop the Broadmeadow track in preparation for his first start since winning the $1 million Stradbroke. But he didn't convince everyone.
The handicapper hasn't missed him. 60 kilos, a fair whack. I saw him trial here a fortnight ago. He's pretty big. I mean, I looked at him and I looked at myself and I said, you know, there's not much difference.
That's why Gary Harley's leaning the way of Absolutely Fabulous, the Chris Lees filly who could end the trainer's run of near misses and feature events on his home track.
It'd be good to win a feature race here at home. I've run second in a couple of the main races, and it'd be good to get one on notched up.
He'll saddle up too in the $150,000 event, but it's Ab Fab carrying the stable hopes.
It's a suitable race for her. 1,300 metres is an ideal distance, but got a lot of respect for a couple of horses in the race. Obviously, Black Baran is the one to beat, being a Group 1 performer.
It's a worrying sequence of events, particularly for female drivers. A 33-year-old woman was driving out of the Ellamore Vale Shopping Centre car park at 8 o'clock last night and stopped to wait for a break in traffic on Crowdus Road. A man in his 30s then jumped into the passenger seat.
He's got into the car with a knife and then issued a number of directions and taken her to a park a little bit further up the road.
She was told to stop just short of George McGregor Park near a bus stop. She was indecently assaulted inside the vehicle and then forced onto the ground next to the parked car, where the assault continued.
The man and the woman later struggled after leaving the car, and before the man ran off, and the woman was able to alert police.
He escaped with her purse. He's described as being aged in his early 30s with a thin build and dark scruffy hair. He was wearing a black hooded jumper. Police are now urging motorists to lock their cars' doors when driving.
It's a symptom of our modern era that we have to be careful like this.
Jane Goldsmith, NBN News. In February, 65-year-old Graham Henderson suffered a severe stroke. The blue areas on this CAT scan show where blood flow became restricted in his brain. Left untreated, Graham would have lost his mobility, speech and ultimately his independence. But after taking part in a research program at John Hunter Hospital, he's made a full recovery.
Well, that's all due to some wonderful care and some brilliant technology that's available in this hospital. I'm just glad I was in Newcastle, not in Sydney.
The program uses advanced CT scanning techniques to create what doctors call a tissue clock, which shows the extent of brain damage suffered during a stroke and determines whether a patient should receive clot-busting treatment.
We believe this method has the potential to benefit probably hundreds of thousands of patients.
Until now, such clot-busting treatments were only available to patients who got to a hospital less than 3 hours after a stroke.
People are very different, and by using just time, we exclude some people from treatment who would benefit.
The technology will be further developed at John Hunter Hospital over the next 3 years.
We think the method could be significantly improved, and it probably needs proof that it's effective before it's rolled out nationally and worldwide.
Madeline Bond, NBN News. It's an infamous chapter in Newcastle's history. Star Hotel patrons turned violent as authorities moved in to shut the popular night spot down.
A lot of it is social tension. The pub was seen as a pub for minorities. It was a place where they could relax and go over the top if they wanted to.
An exhibition of images, stories and artwork opens tomorrow and includes award-winning photographs and NBN News footage to mark the 30th anniversary of the riot, and the venue is rather fitting.
A lot of the people that were arrested during that riot ended up in our back cell here at the Lockup Cultural Centre. We used to be the police station.
Former NBN News cameraman Barry Nancaro was right in the thick of the action. His footage was broadcast across the globe, and for him, that fateful night shift became a career highlight.
About 10 to 10 we said, I suppose we'd better go down and just have a look at what's going to happen with the pub closes. Well, we sort of parked over the road and that was as far as we got. All blew up virtually from the minute we arrived. So.
As well as targeting police, rioters showered him in beer and hurled cans in his direction.
He got one eye up to the viewfinder and this eye is sort of wandering around saying, what's coming from left of field.
But he managed to keep the camera rolling to record the irate patrons and a police car exploding in flames. The exhibition runs for 2 weeks at the lockup. Jane Goldsmith, NBN News.
7 metres long and made of timber, the Towns design, or butcher boats as they were known, were used to carry people and supplies during the 1955 Maitland floods. This one was the Largs flood boat, and when its current owner, the first Belmont North Sea Scouts, got a quote for $40,000 to fix it up, they thought their old boat was sunk. That is until they met boat builder Alex from Allura Marine, who suggested he'd take a fiberglass mould and build a modern replica.
We couldn't keep the old boat going, so in many ways we're having our cake and eating it too.
The new glass version has been made at about a quarter of the cost of fixing the old timber one. Some of the Sea Scouts inspected the boat today ahead of its launching on Sunday.
We're going to use it for fun and formal stuff, so use it as a diving platform and lots of stuff like that.
Very seaworthy, very stable. We've tried a number of times to tip it and failed. For the period of time, they were a great boat.
Albeit through modern materials, the style and history lives on. Paul Lobb, NBN News. When it comes to scientific discoveries, many hands make light work, and that's just what surprised these students at an expo in Newcastle.
So you attract all of those free electrons into your body and they pass through you, trying to get to the ground.
16,000 school students will take part in the Australian Museum's Science Outreach program across New South Wales this year, designed to reverse flagging interest in physics, biology, computer science and engineering.
So what we're really trying to do is get kids to recognise that science is everywhere in their lives, that it does have personal relevance to them, and that there's possibly a career option that they haven't thought of.
The science of the stars seen from inside an igloo planetarium, the biology of an American alligator, and even the secrets of common vegetables may all spark an interest. But according to Dr. Karl Kruzelniski, we need to treat our teachers better.
The key to getting kids excited is good teachers. And I think the teachers are not paid enough and are not respected enough. The only countries in the world that respect teachers are the poor countries and the Scandinavian countries. Nobody else respects teachers or pays them what they're worth. And if we turn that around, then we'll have a better future for all of us.
Scientists hope the expos will switch on a whole new interest for these kids and that some of the wonder will stick. Paul Lobb, NBN News.
Making the Kangaroo squad was a post-season bonus for Kurt Gidley and Chris Houston, but they admit they'd rather be preparing for a semi-final. For Houston, it caps off a memorable year which included a late call-up to the Blues. The motivation to make representative sides is now stronger than ever.
This year I didn't really have it as a thing that I wanted to do, but now that I've sort of got a taste, it's definitely something I'll be striving to achieve.
And Houston says he won't be just making up the numbers.
I'm in the squad just because they think that I've got something to offer the side, so I'll be doing everything I can at training to try and get selected.
Gidley is more comfortable in a rep jumper, but he says Billy Slater's effort against Manly makes the Storm star a certainty to wear the number 1.
I didn't have 4 tries on the weekend, so I don't think a fullback's the option, but I think that utility spot
still might be up for grabs, and I'd love to have it.
This morning's fog kept the duo grounded, but eventually they were on their way. Meanwhile, Knights coach Rick Stone is looking forward to charting a flight path of his own this off-season. He says choosing either Scott Duro or Ben Rogers as a permanent halves partner for Jared Mullen is important. Re-signing Shannon McDonnell also a priority.
He's probably just got to come to terms with whether A, we can pay him enough money, and B, he wants to be here as an understudy to Kurt/winger. But there's some opportunity there for him. And
Adam McDougall was a notable absence from training for the Prime Minister's 13, but Stone is confident Mad Dog will be back in blue and red next season. Mitchell Hughes, NBN News. With no threat of a jockey strike, it was smooth sailing for the NJC. Fashions on the field were as popular as ever, especially with model Rebecca Twigley, girlfriend of AFL star Chris Judd, handing out fashion advice. Sydney's Tanya Lazarou proved to be more fashionable than most. Jockey Blake Spriggs was looking for back-to-back wins on Geigeron in the Cameron Handicap before he makes the move away from Broadmeadow.
Well, I'm hoping to move down to Sydney to Joe Pride for an on-loan period of 3 months down there, so I'm really looking forward to that, and he's got a great stable there, so hopefully we can get a few winners.
With race sponsor Nathan Tinkler looking on, another local pair stole the show in the Cameron. Trainer Chris Lee's delighted to finally take out the event.
She looked a winner a long way from home, then I remembered what horse it was. She can find a way to get beat. The horse hasn't won for 30 months or something like that, but in saying that, she's raced at a very high grade for a long time now, so to finally break a drought on a big race at home is very satisfying.
Robert Thompson winning the race for the first time in his 35-year career.
Tickle pink, and I did a lot of riding for Chris's father Max, and I do a bit for Chris now and Champion Blake.
Mitchell Hughes, NBN News.
A smouldering ruin is all that's left of John Genetsakis' home. He was asleep inside when just after midnight this car's LPG cylinder exploded. The blast rocked neighbouring houses.
Cars were exploding and flames everywhere. I saw just a mushroom cloud.
Mr. Genetsakis ran outside just as a second car exploded, setting his house alight. These photos show the fire's intensity.
The house just went up in a matter of seconds. It was just one explosion after another.
But he says watching his home burn wasn't the worst part.
And knowing that the scumbags that lit it on fire were out there watching it and mocking it, watching somebody's whole life be destroyed, it's, like I said, I mean, words cannot describe what is going through me at the moment.
Mr. Genetsakis claims to know exactly who's behind the incident. He says they've targeted him before.
It's all about drug dealers being ousted and, brought to the public's attention.
Neighbours say they frequently witness all sorts of crime in the street, but are too scared to confront the offenders, fearing they could become victims of this sort of crime. Police say they'll closely follow any leads.
We'll be doing a number of canvasses in the area. We'll be seeking members of the public to come forward, tell us what they know.
Madeline Bond, NBN News.
Just don't know whether there's other organisations out there, other churches who might like to get involved as well to try and make it a more regular support for students, just getting them to shopping and home safely.
Meet little Lucas. The story of this 6-month-old Joey is heartbreaking, but just one of many the Native Animal Trust Fund is dealing with on a daily basis.
Little Lucas was found in his mother's pouch. The mother was dead on the side of the road, and somebody came along and found her and pulled her off the road, and then saw the pouch wriggling, so thought, oops, there's somebody in the pouch. So she got it out and kept it warm, and then contacted the NATF people.
Crumple and Meg, the ringtail possums, were also rescued on the roadside from their dead mum's pouch, as was Barney the wombat. He's just 7 months old. This mob will be in care for the next year before they're old enough to be released into the wild. Wildlife experts say it's the time of year when our native animals are most at risk.
We have bushfire season, we have mating season is upon us, especially with the unseasonable spring weather. Many animals are on the move, open to hits by cars, attacks by dogs.
2 eastern snake-neck turtles are also in hospital for shell repairs after they were run over by cars. Reptiles especially use the road surface to absorb heat. The carers say if you do find an injured animal, call Wildlife Rescue on 0418 NATIVE. Paul Lobb, NBN News.
This is an outrage for those who work for BHP, but it's also outrageous for everyone else in the community who's gone through pain with the global financial crisis.
So at home in a dance studio, it's hard to believe Daniel Roberge is a relative newcomer to the world of ballet. And he's just warming up. The 18-year-old's talent for dance, pure and powerful.
I was never exposed to it as a younger child, but I was at the Hunter School of the Performing Arts, and all the other students were doing it, and I felt like I was a little bit behind. And yeah, I just saw it as a challenge and thought, may as well take that on.
He walked into the National College of Dance 18 months ago, experienced teacher Marie Walton-Mahon spotting his potential.
He's got a natural coordination and love of movement, and very musical, and understands dynamics. So he was just a raw talent.
A talent now more refined. Daniel is just back from Singapore, having won a silver medal at the prestigious Royal Academy of Dance Genet competition. He'd had to complete 4 exams just to qualify.
Yeah, I'm very proud. I'm very proud, actually. So I never expected to be doing this about 6 months ago. So I'm just happy that I've set a goal for myself and I've achieved it.
It's the real Billy Elliot.
In November, Daniel will represent New South Wales at an Australasian competition. After that, the world awaits.
Overseas. jobs.
Top apprentice Daniel Ganderton suffered a suspected fractured leg when he came off Valhero in race 2. The horse appeared to clip Alberon as the field was nearing the turn for home. The fall didn't spoil the mood at the track though, with punters enjoying the second day of the Newcastle Spring Carnival, the one that is the jewel in the NJC's crown. While it doesn't compete with Boxing Day races in terms of crowd numbers, in the Prestige Stakes, the Gold Cup is several lengths ahead.
Showcases Newcastle, of course, not only throughout Australia, but we're televising overseas to other countries live these races. So yeah, it does well for Newcastle.
And they were all keen to see the feature race itself. Street Fighter, ridden by Kerrin McAvoy, lived up to its name, battling home to take the race by the barest of margins. The win sure to help lift the spirits of trainer Terry Mathrick, who almost lost his son in a car accident.
He's been in hospital in a coma, and then he woke up the other day and, you know, he's on the mend, and then this started and it hasn't stopped, and it's not going to stop.
Kate Mitchell, NBN News.
Peter's coming back from the Jets, Peter Haynes. Got a mix of youth and experience, a few boys that have been with the Jets.
We've got half a squad from the local club competition, as well as half a squad from the Women's W League team as well. So hopefully Victoria will be bringing up similar type of players.
James Nitties is a man on a mission. The Newcastle golfer is back home for a flying visit after making quite an impression during his first year on the US PGA Tour.
I got a little bit stale. I've been away for 8 months. You know, the brain gets a little fried, and it's good to come back, see the family, and, you know, I'm just going to work hard with my coach.
Nitties says he's feeling good physically despite recurring arthritis and will look to improve his game in an effort to match it with the big boys.
You sort of put them on a pedestal, but being out on the PGA Tour and, you know, actually competing and realising they're just normal human beings. I mean, apart from Tiger, he's a freak, but it really makes it a lot easier to make yourself comfortable out there.
And having pocketed just over $853,000 in prize money, it's fair to say he's doing pretty well for himself. Currently ranked 94th in the US PGA standings, he's led a handful of tournaments but struggled to close them out, something he's now focusing on.
I'd like to be one of those players that regularly plays in majors every year, and, you know, top 50 in the world is pretty much my first realistic goal, and when I get to that goal, I'll reassess and hopefully do bigger and better things.
Next up for Nitties is the Turning Stone Resort Championship in New York with a prize purse of $6 million.
From next week, up to 5 released criminals could be housed at any one time in this unit complex in Maitland, bringing quite a resume to the neighbourhood.
Breaking and enters, assaults, physical assaults, sexual assaults. A lot of these guys will have some sort of, not all of them, but a lot will have some sort of substance abuse.
The staff say they're committed to the rehabilitation of their clients, but have taken the extraordinary step of speaking out because they feel the centre will be understaffed and poorly run, leaving some of the most serious offenders without proper supervision in a residential area with 2 primary schools.
I believe the community has a right to know what's out there, who's around them.
The Catholic Sisters of Mercy have a taxpayer-funded contract to oversee the running of the house. They say initial staffing levels will be increased as more offenders are referred to them. Mercy Centres says it's confident the community will not be placed at risk.
I'd just hate to see them come up here and be set up to fail, because we don't have the processes in place to really truly look after these guys in the way that they need to be serviced.
Paul Lobb, NBN News.
Five fires have been deliberately lit in and around Hunter homes in less than 2 weeks, but there's little police can do to control the escalating crime.
They're random acts that occur, and the individual instances are concerning.
4 of the blazes were set in the Central Hunter Command. Last Tuesday, arsonists set fire to 3 houses and their garages in Woodbury. 84-year-old Rex Single's home was destroyed. Police say he would have died if his neighbours hadn't smashed through a bedroom window and pulled him from the blaze. On Wednesday night, John Janetzakis' cars and home was set alight while he slept inside. The house and all 4 vehicles were gutted.
We've been speaking to the State Crime Command property squad who specialise in that area, and we've been speaking to them about it, and all matters investigated by the detectives.
While the Woodbury fires are linked, different arsonists are being blamed for the attack in Cessnock.
We don't have any fears that there's a serial offender out there.
But the arson attacks aren't restricted to the Central Hunter. At 10:30 last night, this apartment above a butcher shop in Stockton was set alight. 19-year-old Matthew Lecornu has been charged and was today refused bail in Newcastle local court. Madeline Bond, NBN News. Audience members were entranced as they took in the first 3D screening of Disney Pixar movie Up. Greater Union's decision to bring the 3D movie experience to the Hunter has attracted rave reviews.
Yeah, it was fantastic. 3D was excellent.
It was a pleasure, and I'm glad it's here rather than be at Tuggerah. We had to travel to Tuggerah for the last one.
Good, it's really excellent.
Unlike traditional movies, which are screened using a 35mm projector, 3D movies are entirely digital and don't use any film, which, according to the experts, results in a much clearer image.
The future of cinema is around digital projection, and it's about enhancing the experience for our customers. And people are really demanding those additional experiences with plasma screen TVs and home theatre systems now.
And one of the best things about the new 3D movie technology is that audience members no longer have to wear those daggy cardboard glasses with red and blue cellophane lenses. We now get to don these much trendier Ray-Ban looking glasses to enjoy the full experience. But watching a 3D movie isn't cheap. An adult ticket costs $19. That's $3 more than normal.
It appears second impressions last for Ali Abbas, with the Jets signing the former Iraq international today. Discarded as a proposition last year by then coach Gary Van Egmond, the new mentor likes what he sees.
He's very skillful, he's got a good touch on the ball, he's got a good... he can beat players. You need people who can make a difference. I believe he can.
Cleared by the Football Federation of Australia late today, Abbas has been added to the Jet squad preparing for its 100th A-League game, and who better to play than rival Sydney FC? Despite being sacked by them as coach, Kalina says he holds no grudges, just respect, but added some spice to an already anticipated contest all the same.
I'm not afraid of Sydney, whether it be Stewart or Aloisi or Corica. On paper, I'd rather take our squad than theirs, any day.
Players know they need to lift after a 3-0 loss at home and with their top 6 position also under threat.
These are games you want to play in. These are the sorts of big games that you want to win.
It's unlikely Donny de Groot will play, while Nikolai Topor-Stanley must complete tomorrow's final training session in order to take his place in a game where pressure is mounting on the hosts.
On one hand, it will spur them on and really make them work harder. On the other hand, if they're not up to it, they'll crumble. I hope it's the latter one because we will contribute to that.
We've got a little bit of a lead over everyone else now, so the plan is just to keep doing what we're doing and hopefully, maybe we can increase it to over 20 points for the medal race and take a bit of pressure off.
In rugby union, the Greens and the Two Blues are colours that just don't mix, and now a long-standing rivalry has stretched all the way to the biggest game of the year.
We've been looking forward to this. We always said that if we do make it, we're going to be playing Carlton. So, yeah, they're two games to 1 up on us this year. So hopefully we can get this one.
Both sides are very, very strong. We've been concentrating more on creating things for ourselves rather than exploiting weaknesses of the opposition.
Don't be fooled by the respect on match eve. Neither side could bear the thought of losing this grand final. Wanderers are the minor premiers, but Merewether won the major semi-final. The top 2 sides all year will finally get to settle who's best tomorrow.
We're going to try and play a bit tighter this time. We know if we play open, they're going to exploit us out wide, but we're going to try and keep it tight and wear them down.
We've got all 6 grades in, and it would be great if we could get as many results as we can in those grades.
And Mike Ribbett, we all know your allegiances, with Merewether being a Green supporter, so just to make things a little more interesting, I've got my Wanderers tie ready for you to wear next week on NBN News after the Two Blues win the big game tomorrow.
Disaster was only narrowly avoided late this morning after static electricity jumped from this steel jerry can to the nozzle of a Bowser, sparking an explosion. The blast destroyed the Bowser and damaged a 31-year-old man's car. He, along with his 5-year-old daughter, both suffered minor burns and were taken to John Hunter Hospital. Firefighters spent over an hour making sure flames were doused. Just 6 days ago, an almost identical explosion occurred at a Sydney service station.
It's very disturbing. Because I'm of the opinion a lot of people aren't aware that this can occur.
Now, for the second time in less than a week, police are urging people to be careful when filling steel jerry cans at service stations.
If they don't place that fuel can on the ground to earth that can and any static electricity in it, there's potential for static electricity to jump from that can to the nozzle of the Bowser.
Madeline Bond, NBN News. The milestone was celebrated with just the right amount of pomp and fuss. The New South Wales Fire Brigade Precision Drill Marching Team and band led a celebratory parade. A 1955 Bedford pumper was a visual reminder of the past, while the station's 2 current tankers showed the changes in firefighting equipment and technology. A formal ceremony marked the Cessnock Fire Station's centenary. The station was opened by the community in 1909 after fire destroyed a local store. In the past year alone, Cessnock fireys have attended 468 emergency calls.
Very proud of my crew and for the past members. A lot of people have put a lot of work into this brigade in the last 100 years. We've had 149 retained firefighters walk through the door in 100 years.
Each of them remembered on this honour board, and the whole community turned out to witness the historic event.
This is about as close as these two sides like to get. With teams in all 6 grand finals today, Merewether's supporters dominated the outer. But it was on-field where the Wanderers were first to stamp their authority in the decider. Dan Kevill's clever pass for Scott Herman had the two Blues over within 35 seconds. Defence often wins big games. But so do 2 points, and Sam Gilmore added the first to Merewether's count. Kevill was never far from the action, and when he had Paul Matowski clear, Luke Simmons only had to keep up to score Wanderers second. While Merewether needed something to spark them after half-time, and Blake Crichton had just the thing. The fullback's searching run leaving Wanderers in his wake, and winger Bill Coffey celebrating. Sam Gilmore's radar-like boot locked things up 13-all, and it was overtime for everyone. That meant another 10 minutes each way, and Wanderers made quick use of that. 18-13, Luke Simmons missed the conversion but not a following penalty, and the lead was 8. Then controversy as the Greens were awarded a penalty try, and that got them back within a point. But the Wanderers held on, with celebrations now sure to last as long as the bragging rights.
We've got the Worlds coming up in the Bahamas in January, so we go back home, do a bit of training and try and win another Worlds, hopefully.
Flames quickly engulfed the townhouse in Hamilton South just after 3:30 this morning. The fire so intense the roof was blown apart. When fire crews arrived, there wasn't much they could do. The 2 people inside, believed to be a man and a woman, perished in the flames.
There were reports that there were perhaps people inside at that time, but as I say, it was quite an intense fire and it was very difficult to gain any access to the building.
The fire was still smouldering when forensic police were on scene this morning, the ferocity of the blaze still evident. Adjoining houses largely escaped damage. Neighbours in the quiet suburban street were today in shock. The police investigation is in its early stages and detectives won't confirm reports that neighbours heard screams for help. They'll only say that the fire is being treated as suspicious. Police have spent the day here canvassing the area and talking to neighbours, but say it'll be a few days before they determine the exact cause of the fire. Detectives are also speaking to loved ones who arrived at the scene this afternoon.
Any death is a tragedy, and particularly so in these circumstances. Unavoidable in most cases, but it's yet to be determined exactly what has happened here and whether it could have been avoided.
Kate Mitchell, NBN News. It was a dog's day out at Empire Park today with some cool pups and some pretty hot dogs. Most of the canines were on friendly terms, although it got a bit too much for some. The hunter's very own celebrity dog, Scooby, rescued after almost 5 days stuck in a cave, was the star attraction, soaking up the rays and his newfound fame.
Just walking by and everyone's like, oh, look, he's been off TV.
He joined up with NBN's own Big Dog to lead off the parade, raising money for surf lifesaving and hunter animal rescue.
And as I said, we receive no government funding. It's through donations through the general public, completely run by volunteers, so it's extremely important that the community support our cause.
As for Scooby, well, he's going to spend his days giving back to the community.
Any sort of cause for animals to raise awareness and raise funds is, I think that's what Scooby's going to have to be doing for the rest of his days.
Kate Mitchell, NBN News.
Newcastle coach Branko Kalina returned for the first time since being sacked by the Sky Blues, while ex-Jet Stuart Mashalik made his season debut, and it was a painful reunion for Adam to put so. His first meeting with Newcastle's marquee man didn't go well either. And it gave skipper Matt Thompson a shot from the spot. Mark Bridge reliving a famous goal once scored here in a grand final for Newcastle, but this only impressed his new set of fans. Little had to be said after this type of finish. So too Kaz Patafta, who split Sydney's defence before providing the skipper with a second chance. 1-1, but when Alex Brosk brought the worst out in Ben Kennedy after the break, Sydney had another chance to move ahead. Newcastle had a raft of chances to at least draw level after that, but the day ended 2-1 and the Jets a man down after Tariq Elrich was sent off, and his reaction said it all about that big call.
I'm speechless. Just hard, all the hard work we put in through the pre-season. It's an early start of the year, and that just typifies what we're all about, Wanderers.
I'm in a lot better shape than what I was thinking, and we did a couple of minutes quicker. So the weather's turned out perfect, and I don't know, it was just a really good roll.